Hi, I'm Jeff Carlson with My Resource Library, doing a podcast for Chicago from Your Couch. Today I'm joined by Scott Bowers and Katie Elking. See, I almost got it wrong, Katie. Hopefully I'm getting all these right. After that last podcast, we don't know what's going on anymore. They're with GMI Companies, which is Ghent, Waddell, and Vivid Board, correct? Did I get them right? Gent. I always say that wrong.
I am the gentleman from Gent.
Yes, you are the gentleman from Gent. So I can't do a podcast without making a mistake these days. But I'm also joined by one of your independent reps, and I thought I would let you actually introduce who that is and why they got selected to be a part of your podcast with you.
Jeff, first of all, thanks for inviting us to be part of this. We're really excited to be here. But it's not just us here in Ohio, but Rick is joining us, Rick Aller from Aller Group, who represents us in the Michigan area, and have done a fantastic job of, I think, pioneering, really going out there and evangelizing and telling our story, and patiently doing that, you love things to show up in weeks and days, but it takes months and months of knocking on doors. And they persistently have done that and done the lunch and learns and the CEUs, and suddenly small projects start turning into big projects, and just been a fantastic partner. And I think not only because of the work they're doing with their customer base, but they continue to give us feedback of what we're doing well, what we're doing wrong, what we should improve on. So it really has been a great partnership. So we have just announced them as our rep group of the year for 2019, and well deserved.
Congratulations, Rick. Congratulations.
Thank you for that warm introduction, Scott.
So, I think we actually have a history together that, in 2012, we kind of divided our company up. So part of the furniture group was Waddell and stuff, and other team dealt with that outside of the Gent brand. And I think Aller Group worked with us then. So when we had a chance to come back together, I know Kevin Smirka, one of our longtime salesmen, said this is a fantastic group. We didn't give them the right materials they needed last time. Let's partner, and it's a better fit this time, and I think it's paying off.
Yeah.
Agreed. Thank you for having me, Jeff. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you guys. Thank you. So we're going to jump right in and just I'm kind of curious. So GMI's been around for about 40 years. Is that correct? 40 years?
44 this year.
44 this year. So tell us a little bit of the history of GMI Companies.
Okay. So 1976, our founder had an opportunity to purchase a company that was located in Gent Corners, Ohio, which is near Akron, and was selling things like Lexan chair mats by doing it from ads in the back of Good Housekeeping magazine. So he thought it was a nice opportunity for himself, was always been kind of an entrepreneurial guy, kept his day job and started doing that for a couple of years. Got in a situation where he had disagreement where he worked and felt he could do things differently. So in 78, he left that company and started Gent Manufacturing Incorporated. So the only brand was Gent, and they were making chalkboards. Just came out with things like the marker boards, peg boards, and that. And it really was about service, and that's the thing in 44 years hasn't changed. That it's drilled into us. That's service to the customer, service to the employees, and service to the community. And I think if you looked in the dictionary, you would see a picture of George Lazier, our founder, under servant leadership. Because I think his philosophy would be, what does he need to do to make sure we're successful with our company? So what's that experience they have? So when he got started, it sounds funny now to say, but in 78, they said, we're going to deliver boards in 2 weeks. Most things were in 6 to 8 weeks. And, we want to make sure they have this great experience. And even though he was a manufacturing guy, he realized it is about the experience people have with our products. So he's always been that way. And I think it's never been about him. He's always a man in the shadows. He's 88 years old. He's still in here every day. He has turned over the reins to his son, and other people in the family. But I think to him, he just wants to make sure his people, his way of doing this, that culture thing he's built has meant so much. So as he's added things like Waddell in the 80s, Vivid Board in 2006, it's still about having that fit and understanding how do we service and where we see the needs, that we can continue to tell that story of we want to be there. So Rick's team has all the right tools so that each one of our dealers and all the way to that end user, how do we deliver a feeling that results in that's exactly what I wanted. So
Awesome. So many of our users that are listening know about Gent. But do you guys have some other brands? You have three total brands. Katie, you want to talk about those?
Yeah. So like Scott was saying, we started out with Gent. That's still our visual communications tools. We supply glass boards, whiteboards, a lot of mobiles, a couple mobiles you can see behind me. And then we also acquired Waddell first before Vivid. So Waddell, we started out with just the display cases, traditional. We still do those, but as the office is changing, going to a lot more open office kind of things, so we are starting to work on space division furniture. So we're starting to we launched a few of those products already. Last year at NeoCon was our first big launch with Define, and this year we're going to come out with a few other ones, hopefully. And then we also have Vivid Board as our third brand, and that has our custom graphics capabilities on our glass boards and our whiteboards. We started focusing that on just the healthcare brand. So with that, we can print everything on just whiteboards and glass boards, and that overall goes back into Gent. So we can kind of get this blended solutions. We can print on our Gent glass boards, we can print on our Waddell display cases. So that's where all of our brands kind of come together, and we can mix those capabilities across all three brands, which is really awesome.
That's fantastic. Yeah, I've been very familiar with your guys' products, and I actually had the luxury of touring your facility probably about 8 years ago when I first started launching my resource library. And it was fantastic, and you could definitely tell. I wasn't there on a 90% humidity day, but you can definitely tell that basically everybody in the entire organization is kind of thinking along the exact same lines. So kudos to you guys for putting that all together and for passing along that heritage. With people transitioning back to the offices, I'm sure you've seen changes in the current business model. So how are you responding to the dealers' needs as we're kind of in this new world that we're now living in?
I think for us, it always starts with trying to listen and be curious. So as we got into it quickly, I think that whole idea of service, we kept thinking, what can we do to help? And we look at, for example, this is something that Waddell came up with, and quite literally came up with it in 2 days. Meant to be transactional so that you can lift it up so there's a space. But people started calling in saying, hey, I need a sneeze guard. And we've made trophy cases, whiteboards, easels, as the first time anyone ever asked me about a sneeze guard. So right away, you're trying to understand, how do we do this? Sit down with a bunch of people. So we had ideas, and I think, inside our four walls of the factory, we think we're brilliant a lot of times. But we really were able to sit down, starting with our reps and different partners on a weekly basis, and start asking questions. What are you hearing? What's going on in your area? Because obviously what Rick hears in Michigan is going to be different than what's happening in Florida, in Arizona, in Washington. So it felt like we needed to respond quickly. So literally this was out in a week, and we felt like, let's get some of this stuff going. But as we're doing that, we just really have to understand, because there are no rules. You can't open up and say in a pandemic, here's the game plan. So we just have to continue to, on the fly, adapt, change, and we always have to evolve. And that's always, I think, in our history. It's funny, somebody asked, Waddell's been around since 1889. How did they get trophy cases? And the answer is, there's a guy in Chicago named Wrigley that called up and said, I need things for my gum. Can you make cases? We said, heck yeah. And we started making cases also for this guy named Edison, because he had this record player. And he said, I need to put this phonograph thing inside a box. So we started making cases for things like that. So I don't know if much as we were brilliant to know that trophy and display cases were going to be a future, as much as saying here was a need and we're going to adapt to that. And we've been riding that one for a long time. So hopefully this one doesn't last as long as that. But I think the key has been people like Rick tell us things, and I think there's been a real openness, and we've encouraged people to tell us, don't just tell us we're great. The Emperor's clothes are beautiful. You got to tell us you're missing the mark here. You need to this price is too high, all those things. And I think that's been our secret sauce to things.
Well, Jeff, I can expand upon that a little bit because Scott mentioned we do have weekly calls with our rep groups around the country, and the purpose of those calls are not only best practices for us reps to kind of chat with one another, but it's really for the GMI team to hear what each territory is seeing. And I think it's fair, as incredible as it is to create a product in 2 days, things can change just that quickly as well. So what somebody's seeing, especially for me in Michigan on the coast or in different political climates, those can inform what I'm going to see in my territory. So being able to have somebody in California create a product that's solving a need there, it's typically giving me the idea potentially a week or two ahead of time from when Michigan may see that, and coming up with those products and adding a little bit of value to what I could see in my market and how other markets are impacted by COVID can really provide a lot of benefit to what I can bring to my market. And those calls have been a great deal of support for us.
Now, Rick, and I know you're an independent rep. I'm kind of just going to shoot a question to you, but from the way, so I've been experiencing GMI companies for the last several years. They've been a part of the North American Independent Rep Council meetings. They've been bringing great value to those meetings. From your perspective, what is it like working with that model where they're actually taking the feedback that you're giving them and developing around that?
Well, obviously this is an industry podcast, so I'll keep it PG, but we have manufacturers that, as Scott said, the Emperor's clothes that request our feedback, but sometimes either disagree or for other reasons don't take that. And I think the GMI team, the reason why those calls are so valuable to us is we can say something freely, openly, and in some cases 48 hours see product hit a production line, and to be able to react that quickly is an incredible resource to have when the workplace climate is changing that quickly as well.
Nice. Just so you guys all know on the podcast and here on as we're talking, everybody tells me how great I am. Otherwise, they're not welcome in my office. So just to be very clear about that. No, I'm just kidding.
You're great, Jeff.
You guys are awesome. So
on
I know
those calls, I was going to say, not only do we do those calls, and I mean, we're doing them in a half hour. So
Yep.
respectful of everybody's time. Everybody's putting on webinars and everything right now. But we'll have 80, 90 people on that call. And I don't think there's been one of them where we haven't got done and said, hey, did you notice this gentleman's reaction when we were showing those things? And we've called people, and it's always like, did I do something wrong? You're like, no, we just want to ask further.
Yep.
We couldn't tell if you were paying attention or not, but your reaction either seemed you're excited, or I remember one of our reps was mouthing one time, too high, too high. So you go, obviously he has a strong feeling about pricing.
Yep.
So to me, when my financial people come and show me the dust on inventory, that's when products have failed. When
Yep.
we're doing stuff like this, and Rick will say, hey, have you thought about this? Here's things going on. That size seems too big. Those kind of things, you do get close to these kind of products, but you still got to hear those, and you got to understand, these are really smart people. And if you don't partner with really smart people, they quit telling you things. So those things, not only to share, it has been a definite two-way street, but the openness of people to get on a phone, talk through things, and then be able to come back next week and say, hey, we heard this, and what do you think? It's amazing timeline. So as bad sometimes as you can think things are when you watch the news, it is also amazing to watch the teamwork, to see a lot of things you try to put in place of systems and how do we cross-train people, go, this is why we did this stuff. We have people who are responding quickly right now because they've been set up for success.
I agree with you with everything except for watching the news. I try not to do that. That's just
I think that's good advice.
And you guys are quickly turning products. Like I know that last year you had a lot of launches. This year you've come out with 10 new products in 6 weeks. Is that a direct is that directly from those conversations that you're having?
Yes. Yes. And it has been in response to the pandemic that, you're basically looking at a design team of 6 people who have worked harder, who are not watching the Netflix and that, who've been putting in 12 and 14-hour days of just really passionate work to each week on that call. I think we had a string there of several, 6 or 8 weeks of here's a new product, here's a new product, here's a new product. And come this Friday, we're going to launch partition extenders. So they've had the low partitions. We're going to have 108 different SKUs of it, of sizes, wow, mounting methods. But, there's an opportunity there right now. I think there's a physical need, but I think there's a psychological need right now. People want to feel safe coming back to schools and offices. And there's also tap into that.
Sorry, Scott, but there's also a couple other parts that fold into this whole conversation. As great as calls can be and coming out with relevant product in a speedy time frame, it's the fact that we're able to not only implement the manufacturing of those products quickly, but that we're again telling the American story. And we all saw all the unfortunate circumstances that happened in healthcare where the United States had to procure particular safety pieces from across the world. And if we can react quickly on the home front and create products that can keep our own people safe and healthy, and then to further that, we have to be able to not market it in a negative way, but at least alert our end users, our design firms, that we have these type of products and we're coming out with them quickly. So it's not just the conference calls that we're having trying to share the needs of the country, but it's also our marketing team, it's our production team, it's our customer service team, because it's very difficult to all of a sudden we get an email that the new product's ready to launch, and oftentimes I don't know if the pricing is accurate, what our most up-to-date lead time is. I know it was 48 hours on Monday, but is it now 40 hours, or is it bumped out to 72 because a large end user scooped up a couple thousand boards? And our customer service team needs to be able to react to that just as quickly as everything else. So it doesn't just speak to the reps and the sales team, but it also speaks to an organization from the top down that can react and implement things quickly.
Yeah. Katie, you want to add anything to that part?
Yeah, just to add on to that, the last 2 months obviously have been pretty crazy all over the world. But here it's really inspiring to see all those people out in the production floor, just how quickly they were used to, building our regular products or standard products, and then in a matter of hours and days, they are out there making new products. They have new lines on the floor. It's really impressive and really inspiring just to keep working at a place like that. And obviously from a marketing perspective, we've been crazy busy. Since NeoCon was canceled, we had to switch our plans with that and all the planning going into that, and getting ready to launch these new products. But I think it's awesome, just our teamwork we have here out in the field, our communication, working from home, and then being back in the office. It's just pretty awesome that we've all been able to continue to communicate and get all those products launched. Awesome.
Now, I see a note that I actually have from Susan, who's on vacation, so we can make fun of her today, and that's all good. But it says here that some of these products aren't long-term solutions. So does anybody want to address that part?
Yeah, I mean, not necessarily long-term solutions, because we like to think that we're solution providers. So this is what the market needs right now, and we're turning them out like we know how to, but we want to still make sure we have the quality to back that up, and just having the ability to customize and get those quick solutions turned around with our quick lead times and custom orders. But like always, our tagline is still communicate, collaborate, and learn. So in the end, we're still going to do that and get our standard products and continue making those collaboration units as well.
Nice. So, and we've kind of talked a little bit about this, but being based in Ohio, because that's where GMI Companies is based out of, it's Lebanon, Ohio, correct?
Yeah, just north of Cincinnati.
Just north of Cincinnati, right, close to Kings Island too, is it not?
We can hear the fireworks at night, so yeah, really close.
one of my kids' favorite amusement parks. So we usually go every year right before NeoCon, as a matter of fact. But so really, that's kind of helped you guys out, being out of Ohio, right out of the heartland. Would you say that's been a big benefit for you guys?
Yeah, I'd say so. So from marketing, again, we talk a lot about being made in the USA, and with these kind of products we're coming out with so quickly, and with our local supply chain, the materials, we can get them in quick, and we can get those custom orders turned around. So we're kind of able to put like our money where our mouth is, just from saying we're made in the USA and trying to list all these benefits. But with these kind of products, we're really showing off that it is a benefit, and our customers and our dealers can get those products a lot quicker.
Nice. And
I will
Rick,
say, sorry, Jeff.
No, I was going to just say that I know in my past with you, I know that you are a huge Detroit, Michigan fan, but
Yes.
Made in the US of A has special meaning for you. So I thought maybe you would like to chime in on that question.
It definitely does. As a Michigan independent rep group, not only is having Michigan manufacturers very important to us, but ultimately the United States, and having domestic products made make it just a simpler sales cycle, not only in a post-COVID world, in a pre-COVID world, or during a pandemic. I will say, having an Ohio manufacturer, it's good to lead the way for a manufacturer that's the sister state to us, the little brother to the big state of Michigan, right on top of you guys. So it's nice to help out our less fortunate
reps, but now.
Yeah. So Scott, just so you know, everybody that's listening knows Ohio State University beats up on Michigan every year, so it's irrelevant what he's talking about now.
Being you say being made in America, and we are very proud.
Yep.
This is a small town, 20,000 people. We take a lot of pride in it. But what does that mean to me? And I think we have to tell that story that 20 steps, I'm walking out to my factory, and I can sit down, and these are all, as Katie was saying, these are all brand new lines. I mean, they have completely laid out the facility differently. You have people in areas where you never would have imagined them working, because we have to respond. So that takes a tremendous attitude. That takes a great deal of agile flexibility to do. But at the same time, so many of my vendors are longtime partners, and they're local. I got to get them to cooperate. I can't tell you how many people, in March you're calling up like, are you still busy? Are you there? But some of these people you're saying, yeah, I know this is what we normally do. Here's what we're trying to do. What solution do you have? And let's bring them in on Zoom. Let's get together and talk through these ideas. So, having that local chain, I could not have called up China and got help. There was nobody on the other end of the phone, but to be able to call over to Indianapolis, to somebody up in, South Bend, Indiana, those people are there and they're responding. So those relationships, that local source is paying off in that case. So you can respond quick. And that whole idea of quick shipping, so many people, I need this stuff now. That, suddenly the push is schools are opening up or starting to think, here's my game plan for to go back. So now the calls are coming in saying, in the next few weeks, can you help me with this solution? So I think, we want to say yes. And to be able to say yes, once again, it's, do we understand the materials that are going in? Do we understand, if we're going to make a promise, can we stand behind that? That, our procurement people are people that are doing the engineering, the work that they're doing behind the scenes in those relationships. Don't get all the attention. Everybody looks at what we're doing in new products and sales. But it is that team effort that you go, wow, this is where it pays off.
Yep, I agree. And Rick, have you been seeing great success with the new products coming forward? Yeah,
absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, and a lot of it has to do with being consultative, because a lot of our end users are looking to us to see which steps they should take. So oftentimes they're not necessarily asking us to solve a problem that they know that they have. They're asking us to help identify the problem and then solve it for them. And in many cases, that could be, not only is it a new product, but it could even be a modification to a new product. So the market's reacting quite well to them, but it's also continuing to be able to react as everything evolves moving forward.
And I understand these probably are not the most, like sneeze guards are not probably the most exciting thing in the world to sell, nor is it exciting to sell products that are based off of basically a pandemic. Like most people would rather just kind of forget that this is really occurring, let alone go out and kind of position it as a solution for it. But what is your take on the new products in that manner, Rick?
Well, you're opening up a heavy conversation because ultimately I'm on the sales side of these things and trying to navigate selling pandemic products is not only my job, but it's, to a certain degree, it's an essential service. And I'd like to add value wherever I can. But from like a marketing perspective, you really have to be truly reactionary and understand the person you're talking to could be in a completely different position you're in, given family members being sick or depending on whom in their household may be out of work, or trying to talk about how their end user wants them to react while they're, maybe toddlers screaming on the phone with you. So there's definitely a lot of complexity to selling these health and safety products right now, but on a very human level, that's what we're here for. And if it's just answering a phone call and then sharing with them what I have available, it can be as simple as that. And other times it's broadcasting a little bit louder than that. I think it depends on the day and the time and which week the pandemic was happening.
I've been told to also reference that you have a project for the Pistons that you recently did. Is that correct?
We definitely won a nice project with the Pistons in 2019. We've won quite a bit of projects with large end users, from large automotive suppliers to large automotive manufacturers to even larger mortgage companies here in the state. The great part about GMI, and not to give a big promotional speech here, but is that we can attack the small individual family companies and be able to react quickly to, hey, I get all the time a question, hey, Rick, I see this on Amazon, why would I come to you guys? And I don't need to do the sales pitch now, but if we can get them to believe in it and they get their product in 48 hours and there's never freight damage, which in the world of glass is very difficult to do. It's a whole challenge in itself. And then, we can react to those folks, but we're also able to then really dive deep with a dealer or an A&D firm involved and go directly to an end user and solve problems. We've got other end users. Now, this wasn't the Pistons, but with the same dealership. And after their experience with us, they wanted LED lights behind glass, and they wanted a TV cut out in the square of the glass. And as an independent rep, my first question for these type of customs are, how many do you want? And if they usually say one or two, I can say, I'm sorry, I don't even need to ask anybody. But with GMI, I always do. And that one was a small quantity. And we ended up not only finding a solution, but creating the solution and selling the solution. And that's what strengthens those relationships. Nice.
Well, let's go back to GMI. And what can we expect to see from GMI the remainder of this year?
We have a lot going on outside of the custom solutions that we've started creating. We just launched a press mobile whiteboard, the one right behind me with the tackable fabric on right now. So that is right now our surfaces come in a tackable fabric and whiteboard, but we're going to be expanding our surfaces to glass and other surfaces with that. And then, so that's a big thing that we have on Jen's line. On Waddell, we're just going to continue to do our space division furniture. We have another product coming out soon that our product team has been working on. And then with Vivid Board, we're just going to continue to lead the innovation in the patient room whiteboards and glass boards and seeing what other kind of custom solutions we can do with that.
And Prest was named, if I remember your press release correctly, was named after someone that actually passed away that worked for GMI Companies for a long time, correct?
Yeah, Brian Preston was our product engineer.
Yep.
And he battled cancer for 13 months and died July 1st. So went through 17 rounds of chemo, very brave. Young man who lost his life with 2 young daughters. But that was the last product he worked on. And it was very important to us to honor him. So yeah, we were glad to get the HIP award for that, in a way to say, we felt like it was a design worthy of someone his quality. So
nice. And congratulations to the HIP award as well. I know there's a lot of things that are still going on. There's a lot of companies that are really pushing to just continually promote you guys when the biggest trade show of our year was canceled. But I think we're coming out further ahead with it as well. So I think you're getting more eyes on the actual product now than even you would have at NeoCon. So I really firmly believe that your word is getting out there and it's being well received.
Good.
So, okay, so about this point, I kind of leave it up to you guys if there's any other things you would like to talk about. I'm pretty much out of my questions. You guys have answered a lot of them. Fantastic. I want to say before I close up, congratulations to Rick Auer and the Auer Group for being the rep of the year for GMI Companies. That was big.
Thank you.
I know that you guys have been working hard. I talked to your uncle. I talked to Rick on a pretty much a weekly basis. GMI Companies has been fantastic for us to work with. They are a big sponsor of Chicago From Your Couch, and they are actually utilizing their efforts in every possible channel to just continually broaden the awareness and exposure of all three companies. So congratulations to you guys too. But I'm going to leave it to you guys. What is the last closing things that you guys would like to discuss?
I actually have a question for you, Jeff, about just how you discussed how we've been partnered with MRL for a while now. We're being involved in the Chicago From Your Couch this year. It's been a huge success, and we've really enjoyed being able to participate in that event. But are there any other suggestions or things that we should be doing from a manufacturing standpoint that we can take more advantage of your MRL advantages or anything like that?
You know, normally for most manufacturers, and I would say this, and I'm really not being PC like Rick was and has to with some of the other manufacturers he works with, but I will say that GMI Companies really leverages my resource library better than probably 80% of the manufacturers that are out there. You guys are engaged with us. You're giving us your updates. You're sending us press releases. I would say, and I get copied in on all of those. So I get pretty much a press release from Susan like every day. So it's fantastic to get that information though, but that's what puts you in front of our users. And so I don't really have any advice for you guys. You guys are already doing a fantastic job. You jumped on to the Chicago From Your Couch to be a sponsor for it, to get this podcast so we can talk about product and talk with you guys. To be honest with you, I would just say that what you're doing is you're doing it right. You're engaged with your rep groups. You're engaged with everybody in the workforce. I don't really know that there's a better plan that you guys could do, to be honest with you.
You can't see me blush on the podcast. So.
Yeah. But Rick, do you believe the same thing? I mean, you know what we've been discussing, so.
I totally agree. I think that the whole team at GMI utilizes what MRL is doing, and I think we see a lot of benefit from that, from people that are in our binders and seeing that, and the communication that we're sent through from a lead perspective is great. So absolutely.
Yeah. And anything else you guys want to ask, or I didn't know I was going to be interviewed. That's you don't make me nervous. So
I want a full Jeff Carlson interview podcast by the end of Chicago on Your Couch, where all of the reps around the country can ask you a question, Jeff.
Yeah, I'm not so sure that would be a good thing. However, I will tell you guys, you are going to love what's coming next. Just as an example, I'm a huge Simpsons fan. I love the TV show The Simpsons. This week's newsletter that's going out, where you guys are actually featured on the newsletter, I believe, in there as well. But the main image, I had my entire team, the dealer team, manufacturing team, and the sales team and myself, we got artwork done of us sitting on the Simpsons couch. They turned me into a Simpsons character, and I'm holding a box of donuts, so it's very appropriate. So I hope you guys really enjoy where we're going. We literally are trying to put some fun back into the world. Good. And I think that we're trying to engage in that. And I do believe that a lot of people are tired of worrying about the pandemic. I really believe that people now want some sort of normal, whether it's going to be the normal of yesterday or the normal of today, but they just want some sort of normal. And I think that's exactly what you guys are all talking about today in this podcast.
Absolutely. In a world where there is no routine anymore,
Yeah.
you don't know the rules, what you're supposed to do in a grocery store. Do I wear a mask, not wear a mask? The one thing I know is things are going to change coming out of this. So I think, we are excited to sort of come out of the shell of what do we have to do to help with the COVID efforts.
Yep.
And start talking about, hey, when I'm in Chicago at NeoCon 2021, what are those next solutions and collaboration and learning that we can come up with, that we can continue to have people say to us, hey, that's a really unique way to look at that. But, when you have people, and I don't know, I keep thinking about Maslow's hierarchy. If people are stuck in that, I don't feel safe right now. How do we help people feel safe? How do we get people, if they're scared because X's are everywhere? We need to find fun and whimsy in products we have. We need to answer questions about cleanability so that we can do things that make people do great work. So if we can facilitate that and it's intuitive so they just understand how to work, where they should work, that's what we want to do. So, as funny as it sounds, a year away, we love being on your couch, but, we want to be in Chicago.
Yep.
And really be showing these ideas off and having that communication and just the, that inspiration of creativity and just life that explodes at the mark. Can't wait. And we've already started a lot of efforts of here's how we're going to do it. Here's what we want to do. So we did a lot of products here on COVID. We got a lot more coming. So we want to make sure that Rick and his team are busy. And we want to make sure that Susan's sending you a lot more press releases. So
I'm changing my email, but I did just come up with the perfect idea for you guys. So I recently bought a Jeep Wrangler. It's my very first ever Jeep, and I did not know. And there's a term for it, and I can't think of what it is. But there's little symbols. You know what it is, right? What's the term I'm thinking?
I don't know the term, but throughout the car you're talking about?
Yeah, throughout the car,
so
there's like little things like a Jeep on the windshield. There's flip-flops that are on the mirrors.
Easter eggs.
Easter eggs. There you go. So I have an idea for your screen that's between you guys right now. You should have a little Easter egg that says, if you can read this, you're too close.
I like it.
I like it. I love having fun with that stuff. And I want to thank you guys again for your time today. I really, really appreciate it. It was great getting to talk with you guys. We'll definitely see you next year in Chicago. We may be all under masks and so forth, but at the same time, we will see each other, and I look forward to seeing you guys next year.
Right. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks.